Hello and welcome to Henry's and Movie Reviews, where I take a look at films I've never seen before but others likely will have done. And I saw Elvis recently. I don't mean that I spotted him, he's clearly dead. Given the release of the new Bus Luhrmann film, I thought, let's take a look at one of Elvis's films. Especially given the fact that the film I chose to look at is 65 years old this year, Jailhouse Rock. You might be curious to know what I thought of the Elvis film. I thought the performances were largely all very good, and it captured the phenomenon of Elvis really perfectly. Austin Butler was Elvis. He just embodied him completely. And also kudos to his choreographer because she did a bang-up job. I thought Tom Hanks worked well in a more sinister role despite what some have said about his performance. I enjoyed it. My favourite part of the film though was just showing how indebted to black music he was, and his act was marrying gospel and blues music, and seeing B.B. King, Little Richard, and even Sister Rosetta Tharpe on screen, I mean probably one of the most important figures in rock and roll movement, was magical. Many do claim that Elvis culturally appropriated the music, and I'm not sure if they took any liberties here in the writing, but it seems like he was very much on the right side of the civil rights movement and grew up in a neighbourhood with a lot of black people and appreciated the music more than appropriated it. In any case, he became a vessel to showcase this glorious music to white audiences who otherwise would not have listened to it, much like the Stones did also. Surely it's okay to use this style as long as you acknowledge the people who are at the heart of it, and I feel like, at least based on this film, I don't know if it's entirely how accurate it is, but Elvis did that. Though Luhrmann's visual style can be rather disorientating at times, and while it is really a feast for the eyes, too much of a good thing can make you want to vomit. Though the scene where Elvis sings Suspicious Minds while Colonel Tom Parker is signing his life away worked rather well. You know? All in all, I thought it was really terrific, and it ended on a pretty great note. I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. So now, we're going to... that's so fucking lame. Yeah, we're gonna watch Jailhouse Rock. I think I've only watched King Creole, but I remember that Elvis was very good in it, and I am excited to watch this. It is obviously an important film. It was put in the American Cultural Registry as being historically, culturally and aesthetically important. And also I remember it was on the top 500 films of all time list that Empire did many moons ago. So I've got relatively high hopes. Yeah. This was not at all what I was expecting. I thought it would be a fun musical set in a prison, but I'm not sure if that would have been necessarily the better watch. What we do have is essentially Elvis playing a rather unlikable person named Vince Everett, who in the first 10 minutes goes to a bar after work, gets in a fist fight, accidentally kills a man, and is then sent to prison for manslaughter. That's a lot going on. At least the reason he got into the fight was because there was a man who was beating their partner in front of him in the bar and said something like, I got no time for white beaters. I don't know what the fuck that accent was. That sounded more Bill Clinton than Elvis Presley, but whatever. And while in prison, he learns to play the guitar courtesy of another inmate who worked in the business before.
Now try the G.
And while there, he does this live show in prison, and the fan mail just starts flying in, which is held back from him in an attempt to curb his ego. But then upon leaving prison, he tries to start a music career after meeting a music sort of promoter, I guess, named Peggy in a bar. And after they record a song, they have multiple rejections and think, fuck it, let's just start our own label and self-publish. So that's probably not what you were expecting either. He even goes on to have a film career in Hollywood later on in the film. Like, this is kind of reflective of Presley's life to a certain extent, although as far as I'm aware he didn't go to prison for killing someone. Something might have happened in the army, but I doubt it. I was really surprised by how gritty it was, given that Colonel Tom Parker wanted him to do the lowest common denominator stuff, but it does have a lot to it. The music numbers work, the titular number itself is great.
Everybody in old cell block was dancing to the Jailhouse Rock.
But I just really assumed the sequence was stylized and in a prison, but it's not. It's being shot for TV in the context of the film. Elvis is really good, and his leading lady, Judy Tyler, who was really charming in the film, is also pretty watchable. His character is just such a prick, though. He's really rude and disrespectful to everyone around him, really.
You might at least ask me what happened this afternoon.
What happened this afternoon?
I sold your record, that's all.
Swell. I could tear into a good steak.
What do you think, Mr. Everett?
Lady, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Sometimes just unnecessarily so, like he's a hormonal teenager or something. It does make it a little hard to root for him. The film also really dips after the first act, and it just meanders a bit, really, not displaying any engaging moments particularly. But I do, however, find it funny that they show his song to an exec and he doesn't like it, but he copies the exact arrangement and style for one of his performers, which pisses off Vince, and it's like, well, yeah, you know.
He stole my style, my arrangement, my everything.
I'm sure that happened to quite a lot of black artists. That's not funny, but I just thought that because they put that in there that it was kind of ironic, but yeah. Particularly because many of those claims were levelled at Elvis himself, which it's a shame that the film doesn't really live up to the hype, especially as the first 30 minutes or so is pretty good. I just wish that they hadn't crammed in so much into such a short period of time, because the rest just feels so exhausted and overlong. I'd prefer the bulk of this film to be in prison rather than the 15 to 20 minutes or so that we get. It's called Jailhouse Rock. I want some rocking in a jailhouse. Maybe not that kind. Or Pride Month is over and obviously gay people only exist in June. Isn't that right, every single corporation that panders to the LGBT community? You don't care, do you? You only want to appear like you do. It's just so...
I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10.
I think this is maybe the first film on this channel that I've reviewed which I've only given a 6, and while I think the score is fair, I really wanted a lot more from this. You know, you can clearly see that this, and indeed King Creole, shows just how capable of an actor that Elvis was, and if he'd been allowed to do all of the roles that Colonel Tom Parker turned down, his legacy could be very different. You know, imagine Elvis as Tony in West Side Story. I think he was touted as for the role of Tom Hagen in The Godfather, which Colonel Tom Parker was like, oh no, nothing with gangsters, we can't ruin his family image. In fact, his role in King Creole was originally supposed to go to James Dean, but obviously there was a change in plans after he tragically died. I do think with the right roles, Elvis could have been as celebrated as James Dean was, and he was his idol too, but, having said that, he was also Tommy Wiseau's idol, so...
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Idolising James Dean does not a great act to make, necessarily. So those are my thoughts on Jailhouse Rock. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comments, and you can also follow me on Letterboxd. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you all soon. Thank you very much.